Okay, so we are recording, and we are also going live on Facebook. Okay, so we've got our first guest in the waiting room, so I'm just going to let them in now. Hi, Jose. Hi, Kalina.
Hello.
Hi.
Jose.
Hi.
Hi, I've only just managed to join. Sorry about that.
Hi there.
Hi.
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 Hello.
I was
Hi.
having some trouble with my my internet.
No worries. Just to let you know, we're recording already, and we're live on Facebook. So
Okay.
welcome everybody who's here so far to Carberry Housing Presents Act4Eco. My name's Anna. I'm Operations Manager at Carberry Housing Association, and Jose is our chair. And we're joined by Wendy Rowan and Stephen McCarthy from UCC. And Kalina, you're our first guest, so welcome.
It's such a lovely evening. That might be against you slightly as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
People might be sitting out in their gardens instead, but at least we're recording it, so if people miss it, then they have another chance to watch.
We've become used to that option as well.
Kalina, seeing as you're the first here, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Kalina Carney. I work with NCE's Energy Hub in administration, and I'm living at the moment in West Cork.
Fantastic, thank you. Oh, we've got Alan Wiseman as well. Just arrived. So Jose, I was just saying to Wendy and Stephen that we've got we've had 14 registrations on the Eventbrite, so we're hoping we'll have a few more people turning up in the next few minutes.
Good.
So maybe we'll just give it 5 minutes and see if.
Yeah, I've not been able to upload the presentation, Anna.
That's not a problem because I've got it on my computer, so I can share it.
Okay.
No problem.
We also have a copy, so don't worry for ours if that's
excellent. Yeah.
Any concerns.
I think we're covered. Hi, Alan, are you there?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We just can't see you, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is somebody else joining there? Connor?
Yeah, Connor O'Brien. Hi, Connor.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Connor. How are you?
Thanks for joining us.
Dan Boyle.
Palmer found guilty of the 39-year-old second-degree murder of Palmer.
Hi, Dan.
Hello, Dan.
Hello.
Sir.
Got some news going on there in the background. Connor, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Okay, yeah, I'm Conor O'Brien. I'm the mentor for County Cork for Sustainable Energy Community. So I work part-time for SEAI And I suppose I've been on the road a good few years now in SEC. Before this with Xavier Dubuisson from Clonakilty. In the early days from 2016, 2019, Xavier got the contract to do Cork and Kerry. So Xavier concentrated on Kerry and I did Cork. So for the last year, there's a new structure based in Ballyhowrah Development now, manage the whole SEC for the Munster counties except Waterford, so Clare, Limerick, Tipperary, Cork and Kerry. So we've continued on, and I'm glad to report as of just last week, the 32nd SEC has formally appeared on the scene in County Cork.
Wow, that's great.
And there's another 11 or 12 in the city. So the city was split out over the last year with Kieran Lettice is the mentor for Cork City Energy Cork. And so we sort of combine. So before then it was just all together, but they deemed it to divide it up in that way. So yeah, my role really is just to encourage sustainable energy communities to avail of, I suppose, the services that the SAI provide, which, you know, once you join as an SEC, you're linked in to a network. There's over 500 SECs now in the whole country, and I suppose the aim really is that the SECs, generally most of them would progress to do what's called an energy master plan, or do a baseline study as a starting point. And of course, the Carbery Housing Association is one of the I suppose the pioneers of SECs in Cork, and they've you know, I suppose raised the flag of what can be done, and they have got their energy master plan, and of course are now in the implementation phase, so that the majority of the SECs in County Cork, I'd say about 80% of them they've just joined the network and they're considering what to do next. So they're kind of what's called in the learning phase. So the next phase then is if you do apply for the funding to get this energy master plan, that's the planning phase. So, and then when the energy master plan then is viewed as a sort of a catalyst to I suppose identify what are the easiest projects to do in a kind of a ranked order, and also to promote renewable energy where possible. And it's kind of interesting now, just in the last year, in the last 6 months, in fact, that some of there are 3 that I know of in County Cork, 3 new arrivals on the scene who they are dedicated to owning their own energy assets, you know, so that they are going to use there's a new system now to encourage the SECs to consider, we'll say, getting more involved in promoting renewable energy by establishing their own owned assets effectively in a community level. So you know, that's kind of a big ask in a way, but there will be a lot more available, a lot more supports available now. The SAI are just working on a package at the moment to make it easier for, we'll say, communities to go through all the preliminaries, so that they can participate in this annual, it's kind of an auction where there's you're given a contract for 15 years at very favorable terms, so that then will allow a community, we'll say, the option not only of owning their own assets, but also benefiting from the ownership. And ultimately, I suppose it's envisaged that we'll say the solar farms, small solar farms, might be the easiest, but obviously you need planning permission. You need to get an agreement with ESB networks or to get a link and so on. So that there's quite a lot of work involved, and it will cost a good bit of money. Like tens of thousands to be in with a chance of getting one of these, we'll say 15-year contracts. So yeah, it's kind of an exciting time, and hopefully not only for solar PV, but maybe, okay, wind turbines perhaps, or anaerobic digestion is another potential, renewable energy source, plus others perhaps that will come along.
Thanks for that, Connor. That was really interesting. I think maybe it's getting on for nearly 7:10 now, so I think we might just go ahead and start.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. So okay, so as I said earlier, just for anyone who missed it, my name's Anna. I'm Operations Manager of Carberry Housing Association. Just a bit of housekeeping. Generally speaking, we prefer if people keep their microphones muted if they're not speaking. You're welcome to have your camera turned on or off, whichever you prefer. And we'll be having a questions and answer session at the end. So if there's anything that you want to ask, you can always type it in the chat box down at the bottom of the screen, or you can just wait until the end and you can ask the question yourself. So I think we're just going to go ahead and I'll start sharing my screen. Just a second.
That's the old one, isn't it? Oh no, sorry.
Get that to the beginning. Okay, so Jose, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, just seizing the opportunity to give you a short introduction to Carberry Housing Association and why we are involved in energy and what our interest in promoting this whole activity is. Next slide. Can you move on, Anna? The main housing activity that we're involved in at the moment is rescuing families that are in mortgage arrears. The mortgage arrears crisis was actually a lot worse a few years ago when we began working in this, but it's still very significant and could potentially get worse. At the moment, there's something like 55,000 families throughout Ireland in mortgage arrears. And about 10% of those, 5,100, are over 90 days in arrears, which is really the danger point as far as court action is concerned. Now, there have been something like 7,938 repossession cases filed against those 55,000 families. And there have already been 9,933 homes repossessed. So this is a part of the homelessness crisis, but it's a very significant one where families that are settled in their homes for no fault of their own are in danger of losing them. And that's an area that we're working with. Could we have the next slide, please? Now, next slide, please, Anna.
I'm trying, it's not moving on for some reason. Oh, there we go.
I think it's a bit slow.
It is.
Side by side with this problem, there's another, if you like, major national crisis that we're also tackling in a small way, and that's energy poverty, fuel poverty. Now, fuel poverty is defined as the inability for families to pay, to afford to adequately heat their homes. And the level of if you like, benchmark that is used to define fuel poverty is spending over 10% of your available income on fuel. Now, we find that 28% of families in Ireland actually fall within that definition. So really, nearly a quarter of all Irish households are in fuel poverty. Out of those, about 3% are in what is called extreme fuel poverty, and that is they're paying over 20% of their available income to heat their homes, which means that they have to choose starkly between heating their homes adequately or food or education, books for children, whatever, leisure or health. So really, it's very stark choices. It's a very bad situation. Now, what we find, again, could we move on to the next slide, please, Anna? Is that this energy poverty is very related. I think the internet's a bit slow and it's quite a big file. This is very related to the condition of the homes that people live in. Now, there's two people in the waiting room. You'll find that nearly 50% of people in Ireland live in homes that are under what you might call an acceptable standard of energy efficiency. That is the target recommended by the government for energy efficiency of all homes is a B, and we find that only 11% of homes actually reach that B, which means that the rest, 89%, are under that recommended level. C is a sort of middle level, which is not ideal from any perspective, but acceptable. And about 37%, the majority of households would be in that. But a good nearly 47%, 46% are actually below that threshold. That is, their houses are inefficient in terms of energy, which also means that their fuel costs are higher. So there you find the correlation between fuel poverty, condition of homes, and income. Paradoxically, the people with the lowest incomes have the worst houses, worst conditions, and the highest fuel bills, and therefore are more likely to be fuel poor. Why is this relevant to what we do? Could we move on to the next slide, Anna? Because basically, people who are in mortgage arrears, by definition, will be people whose income is not sufficient to pay their home mortgages or pay the fuel or affordably heat their homes. Also, these people, these families will live in homes that are in the worst condition, that will have the lowest levels of retrofit, and also because of the lack of funds, lack of income, will also be in a bad state of repair. And this is what we find over the 18 houses that we have so far purchased, that we have persons on low incomes with unreliable income dependence on welfare. We have extensive repair liabilities, simple repair liabilities like roofs, windows. We also have very low energy ratings. They lack alternatives in that they couldn't just move into social housing because of the condition, let's say, of their homes or their financial circumstances, because there is simply not enough social housing, even for people that are actually homeless. Now, that's compounded from our perspective by the fact that there are really no current retrofitting programs. There are programs, but those programs really are not available to the majority of people in these circumstances. mainly because of, ironically, lack of funding, lack of match funding, lack of income to be able to pay for part of the repair. Can we move on to the next one, Anna? So within that context, Carberry Housing Association is a small attempt, currently small, hopefully getting bigger, by a group of people to do something about that sort of combination of circumstances that are creating these conditions for people. From the beginning in 2001, this community organization has aimed at trying to provide housing and try to achieve a high level of energy efficiency and therefore elimination or a combating of fuel poverty. Can we move on to the next one? We were set up a long time ago, but we were off to a low start. We found it very difficult initially to get support from the local authorities. From 2003 to 2008, practically, we were not able to actually develop homes. We did a couple of European projects and we attempted to put forward schemes to Cork County Council, which were in effect rejected by Cork County Council. In 2010, we managed to enter the market with long-term leases from private owners, which we then offered to Cork County Council under payment and availability arrangements, and families were nominated to occupy those homes. In 2012, with the growing mortgage arrears crisis, there were nearly 90,000 families in extensive mortgage arrears at that time. We then applied for inclusion as a housing body in the Mortgages to Rent initiative. And in 2016, we bought the first property with something as known as CAF funding, which is a standing loan from the local authority, and commercial loans from AIB. Today, we've actually purchased 18 properties on this program and have 27 further properties in negotiation. Can we move to the next one, Anna? Some of the landmarks in our work on the energy side have been the setting up of a sustainable energy community in 2018, the development of our energy master plan the following year. Within this master plan, we surveyed 29 properties, some were pending purchase, and looked at how they could be retrofitted to a B2 standard, which, as I said earlier, is the standard considered acceptable or the target by the current government. And we found that it would have an average cost of 36,400 per property. The total cost of this 29 properties retrofit, therefore, would be $1 million, just over $1 million. The sort of funding available to us, and this is to give you an example of the obstacles, the barriers that we still face. With 50% funding from the grant available to approved housing bodies from SEAI, we would still require just over $500,000 to be able to retrofit those homes. This is 5 years, our current annual turnover. So you can imagine that this is a very significant barrier, something that we can only work at slowly, unless we have some sort of a breakthrough, unless this program is changed and more funds are introduced. Therefore, our master plan is aspirational, although it still guides the retrofitting of our homes. Can we move on to the next one? In 2020, we undertook a study of energy poverty in our homes with the support of NC Insulation and UCC, Clean Production Promotion Unit. It found that predictably, 92% of people in our homes were dependent on welfare, mainly on disability benefit. 8% were working. The average weekly income was 392 euros per week, or 405 including fuel allowance. And the average weekly fuel costs were 52 euros a week. That is 13% of income over the 10% threshold. Now, within that figure, you'll find some people in extreme energy poverty paying up to 20%, and some people paying perhaps the acceptable 10% or even less. 90% of properties had below a CBR rating, which is consistent with what we looked at earlier. That is, most existing homes are under the C threshold. And 90% of residents are therefore fuel poor, and that's they cannot afford to heat their homes adequately. Can we move? The mechanisms that we found to actually remedy this have been the Better Energy Warmer Home Scheme, which is available to people on low incomes, that are dependent on welfare, essentially. The only problem with this scheme is that it's got a 2-year waiting list at the moment. We have identified 8 residents that are dependent on welfare and put them forward for this scheme with NC Insulation, but they're awaiting their turn, if you like, and they have been on this list for about a year. The other mechanism has been the Better Energy Community Scheme. Now, we haven't used our own because we would need to match fund it. And as I explained earlier, we don't have the funds to do that. But again, NC Insulation has included 2 of our properties in their own BC scheme. And through cross-subsidy, they've managed to meet the match funding requirement of about £20,000 per property, which we couldn't have funded. And therefore, these 2 properties have been retrofitted to a B2 standard. The other inroad that we've made is securing European funding under the Red Wolf project. And this funding will give us 60% of the cost of installing solar panels, storage, smart meters, and storage heaters in 5 homes. We expect the cost to be about 20,000 per home. It's actually out to tender at the moment. This will be funded 60% by the European Union, hopefully 10% by SEAI under their PV and storage pilot program. The rest we will have to borrow from Clan Cradle. So this is quite a challenging activity, project, but we hope it'll be a landmark and a pioneering project in what could be done with such properties in future. It has the advantage of completely eliminating the use of fossil fuels in those homes, which is obviously something that will be required if Ireland is to meet its carbon reduction targets. Next one now. For all these reasons, we welcome the coming to the scenario of the Act4Eco project, because we believe it's a tool which can be useful in supporting these initiatives, and it can be a guide for energy users and landlords like ourselves as to how to address the energy efficiency and fuel poverty issues. Certainly, Carbery aims to make this tool part of our sustainable energy strategy, and we will encourage residents and other social and private landlords to use it as a guide to their retrofitting options. And we're also, at this meeting, proposing the recruitment and the setting up of a network of energy ambassadors to promote this tool as a first step in this campaign. And that's all I've got to say at the moment. This is my contact details. Please feel free to contact us for any further questions. And now I'd actually like to hand over to our colleagues from Act4Eco to present their project.
Hi, my name is Wendy. I'm here with my colleague, Stephen McCarthy. We're from UCC. Thanks ever so much, Jose, for the introduction. It's very kind of you. I just want to talk about a project with you for a little while. So I'm going to share the screen. So hopefully you can see the screen and you can see myself and Stephen on the first slide. So Act4Eco is the platform that was made by the ECO2 project, and this is a H2020 project that started back in 2018. And it's well known that energy consumption in Europe remains quite high, and we need to call everybody to action to try and address this. So the idea was to create something to motivate consumers to act and to change their energy behaviours at home. Hence, the ECO2 Act4Eco project was inspired then to help engage citizens in more sustainable energy consumption behaviours at home. And you can see that we are from the Department of Business Information Systems, University College Cork. So our background would be in making human-centered IT designs and innovations for people to use, and basically any type of information system using the ideas of user design and psychology and user interaction. So that would be our background. So Act4Eco, the aim of Act4Eco was basically to increase awareness of users' energy consumption and to improve users' home energy efficiencies. So Act4Eco is about engaging and empowering consumers by enhancing their knowledge base on how to consume energy in a more responsible way. So this is a free online e-learning platform, and it's readily available for anybody within Europe and beyond. And it provides practical advice on how to reduce your energy consumption in the home. And the platform is based around 5 thematic actions for motivating energy conscious behaviour. So we have a section called Smart Consumers, and this focuses on heating, ventilation and air conditioning on the home. We have a section on Improve Your Home, and this focuses on insulation and air tightness and looking at your windows. We have the Avoid the Rebound Effect or Sustain Efficient Energy Use, because we know once you change your behaviour, sometimes it's easy to slip back in old bad behaviours, and this is about avoiding waste and sustaining actions. We have another section called Manage Your Energy Consumption, and this is about how you can understand your bills, your household appliances, and your rhythms and routines. And finally, we have the one on Produce Your Own Energy, and this is probably the most complex because it talks about solar energy and on-site energy generation. So Act4Eco is really about helping the user to follow the learning paths proposed by the platform. So each user can use each section to climb the ladder of change from motivation to exploration and finally to action. And each section will give the user a fairly basic idea of the difficulty of the action, maybe the cost of the action, how long the action will take to complete, and what impact it will have in terms of carbon. So who's in the project? Well, there are quite a number of members in the project. We are an eclectic group of partners from all corners of Europe. We have experts in energy, IT usability, e-learning, consumer rights, policy making, user segmentation, and public engagement. And you can see on the right-hand side of the screen a number of logos. So if I talk about DBT, you can see Fondant Teknolograft is in the sort of triangular logo. That's the Danish Board of Technology, and they are the project coordinators for this particular project, and they are experts in co-creation projects. Then you can see HEBS, it's a black square with a capital H in it, and they are the experts in the energy sector. We then have DECO, which are in green, just above HEBS, and they are from Portugal, and they are leading lights in the consumer participation projects. Then we have SDS, Strategic Design Scenarios. They're from Belgium, and they are cutting-edge designers and have made a lot of huge improvements to the site in terms of design. We have Synergy, and they are from Italy, and they are communication specialists in learning pathways. We have the ARC Fund from Bulgaria, and they work in research and innovation projects for climate change. We have KEF, which is the Knowledge Economy Forum, and they're from Lithuania, and they bring stakeholders together for think tanks on innovation. We have the University of Helsinki in Finland as part of this project group, and they are experts in consumer behaviour and value creation. And finally, we have UCC in Ireland, and as I said, we specialise in human-centred IT design and innovation. So the project and the Act4Eco goals is to help people reduce the energy consumption in the home by increasing users' awareness and knowledge on energy efficiency, and to promote more responsible, environmentally friendly, conscious citizens. So it's about reaching consumers across Europe, and the aim is to engage 11,000 users onto the platform, and for each user to take at least 3 actions. We want users to be motivated, stimulated, and empowered to implement these actions to become more energy efficient themselves. And the overall project aim is to increase awareness, obviously, but also to transform these messages from this platform into messages for policy and innovation development in the future. And this will be communicated through policy briefs and policy outreach seminars, which we will be conducting in the next few months locally in Ireland, and also our partners will be doing this across Europe before we hold a European-wide seminar. So I just want to pass over to my colleague now, who will discuss research on energy awareness. Over to you, Stephen.
Wendy, and thanks to Anne and Jose as well for the opportunity to speak today. What I might do is just talk you through some of the work that's gone on into making this platform, particularly on the research side, so how the design was informed by existing research and some research we also conducted. If you could go to the next slide, Wendy. So I won't reiterate what Jose has already covered in terms of fuel poverty, and equally Connor at the start with an excellent overview of SEAI. But our starting point for this project was in each of the 9 countries to produce a national report, which is available on the website, which was trying to understand the energy needs of citizens in each of the countries represented in the consortium, with the aim of trying to design a platform then which would meet their needs. So sustainable energy as a goal, as a policy goal, has been gaining momentum over the last few decades, particularly with a rising awareness of climate change and the need to take action to prevent and reduce the impact of climate change. The founding of SEAI, Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, was a huge step in the right direction towards this. And again, as Connor and Jose have already spoken about, some of the schemes that have been provided by SEAI have been really impactful in that regard. I guess there's another side, of course, which asserts the equal importance of behavioral change. So we can take actions that improve our homes, we can produce energy-aware communities, but equally at an individual level, we need to also be aware of the impact of our daily activities when it comes to energy use. And smart meters have helped with that. It provided some homes with more awareness of their energy use, but equally empowering citizens, as Wendy said, to take actions, the day-to-day things that we may not even realize contribute towards energy use, and equally the price and the cost of energy for us. Next slide, Wendy. So as part of the early stages of the project, we also engaged with some experts in the energy sector, ranging from those in SEAI to academics in other universities and the International Energy Research Centre in Cork. And the overwhelming thing that came through was that there is a sense of despondency among a lot of people. We recognize that climate change is an issue. Equally, people feel under pressure when it comes to the costs of energy, but equally they feel that they don't know where to start. They don't know what actions they can take tomorrow or even today to move in a positive direction. Particularly as well when it's a world energy crisis, it's affecting the globe. There can be, again, a sense of despondency and what difference can I make as just one individual when there's so much else going on in other countries such as China. Equally, in our own households, we may do things automatically. I know I'm very guilty of leaving the TV on without, again, realizing that energy is being used. Sometimes it's good for background noise, but again, just not aware of the energy usage behind these things. Similarly, throwing clean clothes in the laundry just to brighten them up. These all have impacts, both at a level of world climate, but equally in terms of our energy bills, trying to maintain more awareness of what impacts these have. Next slide, Wendy. Without a doubt, I think everyone is price conscious when it comes to energy. In particular, Ireland as well has the challenge of heating homes. This is two concerns which need to be taken into consideration when designing the content on the platform. So the issue of billing and trying to figure out how bills are structured, how we can take actions to make our bills more sustainable and more efficient for us. These are all things that came up through our research and inevitably then informed how we were going to design the content of the e-learning platform as well as the overall design. Next slide, Wendy. Probably one of the most interesting things to come out from discussions with energy experts, as well as the reports that we produced, was this issue of energy rebound, and particularly emphasizes the need for behavioral change, changing how we do everyday things to make sure that actions we take with, say, retrofitting our homes or at a community level, that they are made sustainable. Energy rebound primarily concerns where we make investments in greater energy efficiency, for instance, buying a new boiler or investing in LED bulbs, but without realizing it, we end up actually consuming more energy because we leave the lights on for longer, or we use the boiler more than we would have in the past, because we assume it's more efficient. Therefore, we may not be as aware of the rebound effect, whereby we're taking positive actions, but there's equally negative consequences for that as well. So again, these are all informing what we did in the platform, which Wendy will get onto in the demo. I think this is one final slide, Wendy. You go to the next slide. Yeah, as Wendy said, open e-learning is a means of trying to build awareness, trying to empower people to take positive actions. And we've taken all the research that we've done in the last few years to build this platform and try and create a platform which is going to be useful for different types of users, not just one type of user. It's free and voluntary to sign up. So the funding is being provided by the EU Commission. So aside from having sign-in, which you don't have to use anymore, I think, Wendy, that's now not mandatory. You go into the platform and straight away you can start figuring out ways that you can take actions in your daily life to improve the energy you use and ultimately to enhance your bills when it comes to the efficiency of energy use, and ultimately to contribute that a little bit towards climate change, reversing climate change or preventing further change. Next slide, Wendy. So it's the final slide from my side. Just to mention that also we did some user testing as part of this research as well. So in each of the 9 countries, there would have been a series of engagements with potential users, and we got feedback and worked further with the design. Some of the things that popped out, I think, from engaging with users and who are normal citizens interested in improving their energy use was the ability to use the platform to educate themselves across 5 themes, which Wendy will get on to. Equally, there's assessments which try to build knowledge into our wiring of our brains, and we can think back to what we learned more readily when we've been assessed on it. Equally, showing estimations of the potential costs and time involved of the proposed actions that are in the platform and difficulty. So it ranges from very simple actions, which we can do in a day, to more medium to long-term actions, which we may need to invest in. Equally, accessibility being self-paced, so you can log in, you can go to the platform for a while, and then if you want to take a break, you can log back out and log back in again when you want to, and your progress is saved. And very important then, the element of goal planning. So again, this idea of empowering people with the knowledge they need, but then equally helping them formulate some kind of plan of action to use what they've learned. So I'll hand you back over to my colleague Wendy again now.
Thanks very much, Stephen. So I have for you a demonstration. I'm not sure if this is going to work now, but I have for you a YouTube video. What I think I might do is this YouTube video actually does the demonstration that I want to do live for you. So I'm going to just stop sharing so that I can reshare a different screen with you. So I actually want to take you. Okay, sorry, just give me a minute here.
Yeah, if you need help as well, Wendy, I can share from my side.
No, it's okay. I just want to, I just try again and it should open. Yes, okay. So hopefully you can see the website. I'll just scroll up. Can you see me scrolling?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So this is the website, it's called Act4Eco, and at the very top you'll see that it says improve your household's energy efficiency, and there's just two banners there to grab your attention, read in action. It's telling you that we have 22 steps on the platform. At the moment I'm signed in. Now we are changing this so that users don't have to sign in anymore, because it was a little bit of a cumbersome process and people were complaining that it was just becoming a little bit too difficult and onerous. So that's going to be removed. Hasn't been removed yet. And as you can see, as I scroll down the page, you can see we have the different sections. So if I select produce your own energy, this is the probably most technical one, because it talks about solar photovoltaic systems. And if I click on these, it gives you step-by-step guidelines. But here you can see under the step-by-step guidelines, it says duration, 11 minutes, cost. So this particular thing is very cost effective. It's not difficulty, it's at a 4, but the impact is high. If I click on solar water heating systems, it's going to talk to you about how much it will cost to probably install these and how long it would take you to get through this particular function. So if I go to manage your energy consumption, now a nice easy one is understand my energy bills. And this is something that probably we could all do with learning, because very often we don't look at our energy bills, but we can make a difference if we understand them. So if I just click in, just to give it a minute to load. And you can see we have a number of sections on the actual product. So it'll tell you about, what does your energy bills tell you? Well, it tells you more than what it actually costs. And then it'll ask you, before we start, what would you like to learn? So it's asking you to interact with the site. So would you want to learn basic information, or would you want to learn about electricity billing, or what savings? So we're asking you to interact with the website. So then on the next section, it'll tell you about your energy bill itself, and it'll explain each part of the energy bill. Now, I don't know about you, but until I started working on this, I didn't really bother with my energy bill. I just paid the bill. But it will explain to you the different sections of the bill. So like how much electricity you've used and actual consumption and the tariffs. Now, the interesting thing about tariffs is that they change on an annual basis. So you could save money simply by changing your energy supplier annually by keeping an eye on the tariffs, because often the energy supplier will say to you, okay, join this company and we'll give you a reduced tariff for the very first year, and you'll be signed in for the first year. But you can change your energy bill, energy provider after the first year and go to another energy provider who'll offer you the same reduced rate for another year. And that way you're saving money. So something simple like this that we don't even think about is happening all the time. That's a nice, easy one, understand my energy bills. So when it comes to improve your home, there's a nice one here on air tightness. So that one shows you that the duration takes about 50 minutes. It's fairly low cost. It's not too difficult, but you can make an impact. So we all have drafts in our home. And some of the simple things are that, we could actually remember to shut our curtains at night when it gets cold. We could shut the doors. I'm always telling my family to shut the door because it's the draft. And I'm sure they're sick of hearing it, but it's true. You know, it's a simple thing that we can all do to stop wasting energy, especially in the winter time. So in this section, it'll show you how to get the most out of the things you're already doing by telling you how air flows around the house. Now, some people have chimneys in their rooms and they don't actually use the open fires. And a nice way of saving money from a chimney that isn't being used, but is actually causing a draft, is to put an air balloon inside the chimney stack. And these are relatively cheap, they're easy to do, and they reduce drafts. Say you have air leaks around your doors, you can put in this, it's easy to buy, it's like a roll of weather stripping. And you can put that around the doors and it reduces some of the drafts. You can also get a small thing, a draft excluder that you can attach to the bottom of the drawer with some small screws, and it has a sort of brush effect on the bottom, and that can reduce drafts through doors. But other things like getting one of those very long sausage cushions, they're draft excluders. They're fairly cheap. You can find them in most shops, and you can put that at the bottom of the door and that can stop drafts. So there are simple fixes that you can make on the site, but there are also complicated ones because not everybody wants to do the easy things. Sometimes people are interested in the technology. So there's things like how to learn to use your thermostat. Now, nowadays we have digital thermostats that are available, and you've probably come across these yourself. Lots of companies are selling these digital thermostats. I think it's called Nest and Hive. And Netatamo, I'm not saying that right probably, and Climore. So these smart controls for heating your thermostats, you can control them from your app on your phone. Now that sounds quite expensive, but actually when you look at some of the offerings that are out there, it's not as expensive as you would think. And some of the simpler things would be that where is your thermostat placed? And this is something I learned through this program, that it's important to know that your thermostat should not be by a draft or a door, because then you're getting an unregulated temperature reading because it's in placed in the wrong place in your home. Another thing that you could think about is, instead of having a wall thermostat like we see in this picture, is to having your radiators have individual thermostatic controls. So yes, they can be a little bit expensive to install, but actually they can save a lot of money. If you're a homeowner, you can turn off the heating in one particular room, or even if you're in rented accommodation, you can turn off the heating in one room that you're not using. You might have rooms that are spare rooms that you wouldn't use. So why heat these rooms that are empty and not populated by people? So I wanted to show you just a few of the simpler things that you can do on this platform. We do have information as well on more complex things like solar panels, like becoming an on-site energy generator. But there's something there for everybody. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can do the simple things. You can do if you're really interested in energy production, you can learn about that. And also you can learn about how to sustain your efficient energy use by taking some simple steps to say, okay, remember to turn off the lights when I leave the room and I'm not using the room anymore. Turn off my appliances like TVs and computers and laptops when I don't need to use them anymore. And shut the fridge door more efficiently and not leave it open for a long period of time, because that wastes a lot of energy. So simple things like that can reduce your energy impact and also save you money on your bill. So we also have on the platform a video section. This is a video of the Act4Eco discussion round we did at University College Cork, because we were part of the Cork Discovers event. And you can also learn about what's happening now. So we have news articles and what's happening in the world of technologies, as well as you can find out more information about us and our partners and the consortium generally. So we have all these sections, they're ready, they're available, they're free, they're online, and they're there for everybody. Then we have a frequently asked question section as well for any bits that people don't know about. We also have this in multiple languages. So we currently have it in French, Bulgarian, Danish, Finnish, Greek, Italian, Lithuanian, and Portuguese. But we're also moving to other countries. We're going to be translating into Spanish and German and other European languages. So this site hasn't finished by any means. We're still developing it and it's still growing. And we're looking forward to creating more partnerships with other people in the future. So I'm going to stop sharing there and hand back over to Anna for the next section. And thank you very much for listening. We do appreciate you including us on this session today.
Thanks, Wendy and Stephen. That was really helpful and really interesting. Yeah, I mean, both myself and Dee, who's here, who's the Secretary of Carberry Housing, we've both been having a look around the site, and we've created accounts, and we've been exploring the different actions. So yeah, so we're really looking forward to delving into that more after this presentation. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen again, just because I've got just a couple more slides. Hopefully haven't bored everyone to sleep yet. There we are. So I just wanted to quickly say a few words about how people can get involved if they'd like to. So in our sort of earlier talks with Wendy and Stephen, we were talking about how Carberry Housing would like to use the Act4Eco platform for the work that we do with our tenants. And it seemed to us, as Jose said earlier, that it meets a need that we have, and also something that Stephen said about behavioural change. You know, we're hoping to install more renewable energy in our houses. We're hoping to make our houses more energy efficient, but we can't do that without the help of the tenants themselves. You know, we can't just think that changing the houses is all we need to do, because we need the tenants to understand how the technology works and to understand how to improve energy efficiency themselves, so that they don't have experienced the rebound effect that Stephen was talking about. So part of the reason why we wanted to have this event was to invite members of the public, members of our network, of our community, to volunteer as energy ambassadors for Carberry Housing. So what exactly do we mean by that? Well, the idea that we had is that wouldn't it be great if we had maybe 4 or 5 people who would volunteer to help us work with the tenants and help them to change their energy behaviors and learn about the different technologies that we're installing in their homes, because we have already retrofitted some of our houses, and we have had a few teething problems, which we've hopefully learned a lot from, and hopefully won't repeat the same mistakes. But you know, we've had some experiences where, you know, we've applied for the funding, and the contractors have gone in and they've changed people's heating systems, or they've changed the windows and doors, and then they've gone away. And to be fair, that, you know, they have tried to provide information on how everything worked, but you know, it's not necessarily enough to just kind of give someone a leaflet and, you know, leave them to it. People need a little bit more support and a little bit more dialogue, I guess, around how these systems work. And so we had a few problems with you know, tenants experiencing higher levels of condensation with their new systems, forgetting to leave vents open, you know, turning the thermostats up too high. We haven't had anybody complain of higher bills yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was something that also came up in the future. So we're hoping to try and avoid those issues, and also just make sure that our tenants feel supported in the changes that are happening, and that they feel involved and empowered to change their energy behaviors. So we're looking for volunteers to come forward who are passionate about energy efficiency, who want to learn how to be more energy aware themselves, because I think, as Wendy was saying, like, everyone who's involved with these kinds of projects finds that, you know, a lot of the information that they learn is useful to them personally in their own homes, as well as being able to pass that information on to others. And yeah, it can be anybody. It could be someone who's already a member of Carberry Housing. It could be, in fact, a tenant. It could be a board member, or it could just be anyone who's interested in the work we do and wants to help. So we haven't, we're still in the early stages of figuring out how this might work, but the idea at the moment is that we would allocate each energy ambassador a small number of properties. So 4 or 5 properties. We've only got 18 that we own and 1 that we're leasing at the moment. So we'd only need 4 volunteers for the moment. And I guess we'd start off by kind of giving a little bit of basic training to help them learn, you know, as much as possible about domestic energy efficiency and renewables, so that then we can put them in direct contact with our tenants, and they can support those tenants to learn and improve their energy efficiency themselves. And a big part of that would be guiding them through using the Act4Eco website and completing the different steps involved. And then the idea would be that the tenant would have a point of contact then for any questions or any issues that they might have, or anything more that they want to know. So that's what would be involved. And then a sort of a broader idea that Jose mentioned earlier was that you know, we'd like to encourage other organizations to do the same. So we've got NC and Insulation here. We've been in contact with Brian Cassidy at Cork City Council, and he's very keen as well to appoint energy ambassadors to work with Cork City Council's tenants and encourage them to use the platform as well. So, you know, we've already got some conversations started around this, and we're hoping that we can formalize that into some kind of network that Act4Eco, that the Act4Eco team and ourselves can kind of help to manage, and that it would be great if we could all come together regularly and meet and talk about, you know, how we're getting on and what we're learning through the process. So if there's anyone at the meeting who's watching this later, in fact, watching the recording, who'd like to be involved, who'd like to appoint their own energy ambassadors or become an energy ambassador themselves, we'd like to invite you to drop us an email, either to Jose or myself. My email is there on the screen, redwolf@carberryhousing.eu. So do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. So that's all the slides, you'll be pleased to know. So nothing left except if anybody has any questions, comments or suggestions on anything that you've heard this evening. So I'd invite you to turn your cameras on, turn your microphones on if you'd like to, and let us know if you have any questions.
And I think there's actually 2 questions in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Dee.
No problem.
So Jose is asking, do we have any brochures that we can circulate to tell people about the site and how to use it? I guess that's a question for Wendy and Stephen.
Yes, we do, and we can send you on the PDF copies of those. Brilliant. If that helps. Yeah, that'd be great, I think, because yeah, I don't think a lot of our tenants don't necessarily attend Zoom sessions that we put on, but they, you know, we usually contact them via post or email, so that would be really, really handy. And then Dee is asking, is it possible to share some energy saving tips through social media, or would it be best to promote users to visit the website directly? So we do have an Act4Eco Facebook and Twitter account, and we post quite regularly. But most of I mean, I think it's good for the person to go through the learning steps so that they are gaining knowledge for themselves rather than just giving a simple tip. I think it's better to direct them to the site. That would be my opinion. What do you think, Stephen?
Yeah, that's right, Wendy. Yeah, I think the social media accounts provide some quick tips, but for the more detailed information, the website is the best destination.
Great, thanks, guys. Cheers.
We also have an email contact on the website, so you can email our partners for any questions you might have. But you can also email us. We can give you our email addresses. We don't have a phone line because we're a research project.
One of the things that occurred to me is that it would be very useful, and this might be a bit difficult, but it would be useful to have a list of experts, if you like, that would be willing to answer questions that people have, because obviously you can't go into a lot of detail with the website. People could have specific questions that they might have if you had some sort of a panel of pro bono experts that were willing to give, and they could be specialists. They could be someone solar, someone heat pumps, someone that would be a useful resource, because people often maybe try to guess things that they don't really know, which is not good. And if they just knew where they could go, this would be very handy as an additional resource.
Yeah, and I think that is a very, very good suggestion, and that's something that we are looking to expand on a country by country basis, because obviously this website is designed for the whole of Europe. It doesn't have country specific information at the moment, but that is an area that we'll be looking to expand to later on in the year, when we think about how to move forward with this project, when it becomes no longer a research project, but becomes a life of its own. It's something we actually want to network with people in Ireland about, to see if they want to become actively involved in keeping this project alive as a free project, really. So yeah, it's a very useful suggestion. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, we've got a question from Connor. Connor's asking what the geographic region for the energy ambassadors would be. I guess I can start by answering that on behalf of Carbery Housing, which would just be looking at our tenants who are around Cork County and Cork City. But by all means, we would be delighted to see you know, other organisations in other parts of the country doing the same, because you know, the more people do it, the better, for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Anna. I think this is something that doesn't affect just one area or one country. It's a universal problem, and the more people who get involved, the better it will become.
Absolutely. Jose, do you have another question?
Yes, I just wanted to add this point. I think that you've got to be aware of the potential of actually having this sort of feedback from users. And I think that this could be potentially quite a useful learning forum, really, because if you have a number of people actively in contact with users, getting feedback, that could actually push forward the whole area of research and practice for energy efficiency and renewable energy. I think that very often we work in the dark as to what users are actually experiencing. And I think to have a mechanism for regular feedback would be very useful. And I think from that point of view, the networking of, if you like, the energy ambassadors would be useful in terms of being able to exchange notes and see if certain trends were appearing in different areas which were relevant and needed to be addressed, or changes need to be made. I think it's a very useful mechanism for feedback that we need to encourage and to develop, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. And later on this year, we will be incorporating some data collection tools onto the website for users to give them that opportunity, really, to tell us what's happening and how it's useful it is, what's working, what's not working, and what's happening locally with them. So yeah, definitely we take that on board and we take it very seriously. So thank you very much.
Brian?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Brian Cassidy, Cork City Council, and I run two closely associated projects. One called Intensify, which is an Interreg Europe project, which is about interregional learning, and seeking out ambassadors for the cause is actually one of our aims. And I can see Jose and Anna have done a great job doing a bit of advertising for us there now, looking for energy ambassadors. I think the project is excellent. Act4Eco, we highlighted it on our website some weeks ago. The whole idea that someone could go onto a website and learn more about how they can improve energy efficiency in the home without actually spending a penny. The whole idea of the people not knowing what the bill is, a lot of this has to do with cheap energy. When energy was expensive, I remember when I bought my first house, myself and the people I hung around with, and partly because of the industry we were working in, we spent our time looking at different radiator valves and what would be the most effective on your heating system, and what boiler to install, whose boiler was best, and what did we think, and the way to install it. So I think it kind of fell out of favor throughout the 90s and the noughties, and it's back in again now, not because of cheap energy, but because of, or not because of expensive energy, but because of climate change. And I think it's something that will grow. And I think the whole idea and the need for energy ambassadors is actually great, because if we are going to reduce carbon emissions, it is going to be through personal action. It's not going to be all about doing your home, as Jose alluded to. The cost of upgrading a home, it's very expensive to come to B2. And I think the whole B2 idea, certainly in my work, the whole idea of the B2, the cost optimal equivalent of B2, all that still has to be teased through, and what does it mean for carbon reduction in the longer term. So I think there's still a lot of work to do, but I'm delighted to see the success of Act4Eco. I'd have one question. Who will keep the website alive once the project ends, or what way have you thought about it?
Yeah, Stephen, would you like to take this? I can answer, but maybe Stephen likes to answer for a change because I'm talking too much.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. Yeah, I suppose the consortium has a few partners which are hoping to engage in a new project after this. But in addition, we're looking for companies who will actually take the platform and use it and keep it going as well. It relies on some goodwill, but I guess the support from the consortium is there to support whoever might take it forward. I think definitely the Danish Board of Technology are very keen to engage as many partners as possible across Europe. So I think the opportunity for collaboration, it's an open door, whoever's interested. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sorry, you're saying it is a website that would complement another project I'm working on with the UCC Tyndall Institute, which is upstairs. And its aim is to provide a website where people can get advice on energy efficiency retrofitting of their homes. So get information like the cost of doing their own home individually, the cost of individual actions, the cost of collective actions if they come together as a group, and be able to refer them then to the different agencies, whether they be contractors, SEAI or other grant giving agencies. So it'll actually complement that locally very well, because now we'll have two websites offering complementary information, but not the same information, one building on from the other, you know. And we expect to have that up and running by the end of next year. So it'll be very good.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of the website then, like we're talking with the idea of a tenant's handbook for climate change. Well, see, you can see they're all very closely. We're all trying to get to the same goal through different agencies. And it's one of the outcomes from the Intensify project is this idea that we would produce a climate action handbook for our tenants, which would deal not only with reducing their carbon output, but also what to do in certain parts of the city if there's a flood, and bring more into people's living environments that, you know, you can and you need to and you can do this to limit the damage caused by a flood, you know, or you can do this to reduce your energy consumption. What we have to be careful of with energy consumption is it doesn't become a game, you know, because studies have been done where they show that when the recent people achieved a very low energy consumption figure was they actually stopped using the cooker and went around to the local chipper, you know, it got that intense. It is, I think, a better word is probably optimization of energy consumption as the thing from minimizing, or, you know, it's like for maximizing output, we want to optimize output. So yeah. Well done, everybody.
Thanks, Brian. Actually, I've got a question, and I hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot, Cleona, but seeing as you're the representative from NCE here, I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about the Act4Eco platform now that you've seen it in action in relation to the work that you guys do, because obviously you're retrofitting people's houses every day, and it'd be really interesting to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I've had a quick look at it like yourself, Anna, and need to delve more into it. But even in terms of the inquiries that we get into NCE installation, I can see, how we can point people in the right direction. People who are at the very beginning stages of wondering what to do to save money or to upgrade their homes. So I'm delighted to see it tonight, and I like that want to actually delve a little bit further into it. But I can really see us using it. Or guiding people to use it, sending
fantastic
of the project. Yeah,
that's really good to hear. I'm really glad to hear that, and I'm sure Stephen and Wendy are glad to hear it too. Dan, did you want to?
Yeah, just a couple of points. A couple of years ago, I actually won a prize during Science Week from Act4Eco. It's a unit counter, an energy unit counter. So it's a plug-in device, and you plug your appliance into the plugged-in device, and it tells you the number of energy units you're using and the cost of that and stuff like that. And as a piece of hardware, I think it's something that most homes should try to avail of, because it gives a good use of, well, mine, for instance, is perennially linked to my kettle, because that seems to be responsible for 80% of my energy costs. But it could be linked to a bar heater, it could be linked to a television, that you could just measure what the energy use is. And maybe that's something that we could look at in terms of our own tenants as part of an ongoing education program. I also think the program has a use beyond tackling energy poverty energy poverty and the energy efficiency. There's a wider conversation that needs to be had about households and energy loads, about using appliances during different times of the day, and getting people to use nighttime electricity, for instance. And if the program can include that, I think it might have a wider application as well.
Yeah, actually, Dan,
absolutely.
One of the outputs from Red Wolf that Anna mentioned, which we were also involved in, the Red Wolf project, is to look for low carbon electricity. So to have a predictor on the system that will say, tomorrow night there's going to be wind, and we're going to target that and say, okay, because there's wind, the carbon content of the grid will be low. And we'll highlight that to people, and if they want to charge up their electric storage heaters, or if they want to use other equipment at that time, that is the time to use it. And they can sort of maybe delay their washing cycle, or delay their dishwasher, delay putting on the kettle until the wind is very high, and have 2 cups of tea instead of 1. And that way reduce or optimize their consumption, but reduce their carbon content.
Thanks, Brian. I actually have a question. So I am planning to, as I say, I've signed up, I've got an account, and I've had a look at the different actions, and I'm planning to go through the steps myself. But I was just wondering, I didn't see this, so forgive me if I missed it, but is there any way that you can kind of, I mean, I know you said you're doing away with the separate accounts and stuff, but is there any way that you could create like a profile of what you have in your house? So you could say, like, I have this type of boiler, I have, this, I have double glazing, or I don't have double glazing, things that, like, if you could create a profile, say you have solar panels, say you're on the night meter, those kinds of variables, like, because my feeling was when I was looking at it that it's quite general, obviously, which it needs to be to kind of address the most concerns for the most number of people, but it would also be helpful if you could kind of sort of create your own unique profile showing, the conditions that you have in your home, and then receive kind of, I suppose, more tailored guidance on how to make best use of that. Sorry if that's like completely impossible, but
no, it's a very good question, Anna, because it's something we discussed a couple of years ago about developing the website, and profiling people as they joined.
I think Wendy dropped off. I think it's her internet connection can sometimes be a bit unstable.
Sorry, Wendy, we lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, bad connection. So yeah, it was something we discussed a couple of years ago. We were going to create a profiling system so that when people signed in, they would tell us about their house, rooms
Okay.
they had, what their interests were, so that we could then funnel them to the particular action that would suit them. But then we felt that perhaps by doing that, we were cutting out the other options to them. And the other thing was with GDPR, what would we do with all this information that we'd be collecting on people in terms of storage and the ethics around it, I think, and that sort of pushed us away from doing that at that stage. It may be something that we look at again in the future. But I think when we're sort of developing a research project, we have to think about what's the most think about the usability, really, to make it the easiest for the user, because I sometimes think when you're faced with all these personal questions, it can put you off at the start. So you have to be a bit careful as to where you put them on the platform. So that was probably why we haven't included it at this stage.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Still a very interesting point, though, Anna. Yeah, I think when the platform grows and develops further, it's something definitely be worth considering.
Yeah, and I guess that there's a lot of, again, as Jose was saying, there could be a lot of valuable data that could be gathered. So if that was an objective of whoever ends up taking it over, then yeah, that might be something to consider then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any further questions? No? Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, then I'd just like to thank everybody very much for joining us this evening. Especially thanks to Dr. Wendy Rowan and Dr. Stephen McCarthy from UCC, and to my co-host Jose. And yeah, thank you all for joining us, and we hope that you'll all sign up to be Energy Ambassadors and tell your friends about it. And so this video will be available on our Facebook, and we can also send out a link to anyone who'd like a copy of it. So thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.